Noogaradio.com, 92.7 FM. Clutch with Keon Rose is the show. March is the month. Madness is the name of the game. Actually, basketball is the name of the game. But madness is what happens when you put 64 teams in one giant pot and stir it together, right? Now, Monday, I didn't fill out my bracket. People start this race to fill out their bracket immediately after Selection Sunday. Not me, man. I'm a slow burn. I'm a brooder, right? I take my time with this. So I didn't give you anything on Monday. Not really. Like, I gave you some of my opinions and where I thought I might be going with a lot of these, but I didn't give you everything. Now, my brother did join me in studio on Monday, and we did talk about some of this stuff. I want to break down a couple of things for you because I do want to talk about who has the toughest road of all the one seeds to a national title. I'd like to talk about that. But I'll just give you the general sense of direction about where my bracket is going, because I've been very much impressed by the SEC and Big 12 teams that I watched this year. A lot of SEC, though. And I have a surprising place for Auburn. I have a surprising place for Auburn. I also have Arkansas going surprisingly far. I think I have Arkansas in the Elite Eight. Yeah. I like to take a little bit of risks here and there, but I feel like this might be the most unsure I have ever felt filling out one of these things, honestly. Right? There's a strong Texas bias. I tried to avoid it. I couldn't avoid it. Texas is what I have Texas in the Sweet 16. There you go. I got Tennessee in the Final Four. I don't actually feel any shame in that, in large part because when we're talking later in the show about all the number one seeds, I'm going to get into it a little bit, but Virginia, despite having the best team of all the number one seeds, I think fairly easily, Virginia has the toughest road, I think. We'll get to that a little bit later, but I think Virginia honestly has the toughest road. But Virginia would have to pass through some combination of Kansas State, who's really good, Kentucky, who's really good, either Kentucky or Tennessee. I mean, you'd have to come through some combination of all of those schools. If you're Virginia, it's a tough spot. It's a really tough spot. I'm trying to figure out I'm still working on the 12-5. You've got to have a 12 upsetting a 5. It happens so often that it would be crazy not to. But at the same time, there are a lot of good 5s this year. Like, the 5s are strong. You got Clemson, you've got Ohio State, you've got West Virginia, you've got Kentucky. Right? And as much as I like Davidson and what they've been able to accomplish this year, I don't think they're better than Kentucky. Right? South Dakota State, who I've watched exactly 0 seconds of basketball. I'm not taking them over Ohio State. Ohio State is incredibly good and one of the better teams in the nation, to the point where I look at their 5 seed and I go, yeah, it could be kind of low. Right? And the other 5 seed is, I already said Clemson. So West Virginia and Murray State. Look, Murray State's really good. Like, Murray State probably would be the team to do it, except West Virginia is a monster of a basketball team. So who am I choosing to get upset here? I chose Clemson, but I'm really not even all that sure about that. But Clemson has some streaky shooting. They go on runs, right? So you can get a 12-2 Clemson run, and then Clemson may not score for another 5 minutes. And it's happened a few times this year, and that's a little bit concerning at this time of year. So I went ahead and put Clemson as the team of all the 5 seeds that will be overthrown by a 12, but I feel less and less certain about this kind of thing all the time. There's nothing that's worse for your self-confidence than filling out a bracket and then looking at it later before the games are played. And you're going to change your mind a bunch of times. I think you change your mind a bunch. I can fill out multiple brackets, but I tend to only fill out one or two because it gets to be infuriating. It gets to be infuriating when in one bracket you have an entire region correct and everything else wrong, and then the inverse of that on all your other brackets. I feel like if you fill out 4 or 5 brackets, you can never be happy. Right? Like happiness is just never going to find you if you're the guy that fills out multiple brackets. How can you be happy discovering all the multiple different ways that you can be wrong? I don't know, man. I just fill out 1 or 2, 3 if I'm feeling edgy, which I'm not this year. Like I said, I've never been more uncertain of a bracket that I have filled out. Last year, I was filled with confidence. I was also entirely wrong. Right now, I will have my brother back on the show. He'll call into the show on Monday because we did do some bracketology. We engaged in some bracketology while he was here. So I want to figure out where his weekend got ruined, because this first weekend ruins most of us, right? Like most of us are down for the count right after. Like this ruins most of us. Generally speaking. You're listening to Clutch with Keon Rose on all new Nooga Radio, NoogaRadio.com. So let's get into this, though. Let's get into the number 1 seeds, because I think it is important to know which of the 1 seeds has the toughest road. I've already told you it's Virginia. There's a strong argument to be made for Villanova, though. The thing that makes me upset about Virginia is that Virginia has the toughest road. I don't really think that's up for debate, right? Like, I do have my waffles on how good actually Virginia is, but Virginia has done enough, and the resume is strong enough that they were the number 1 overall seed. So why, being the number 1 overall seed, do they have the toughest road? I thought the entire purpose of this was to reward you for having a good regular season, which Virginia has had. So explain to me how it is that Virginia is going to be rolling up on a team like Kansas State and or Creighton, right? And I think it will be ultimately Kansas State. They will be rolling up at some point on Kentucky and or Arizona. And Virginia could be rolling up on, after that, Tennessee. That's a lot of tough teams. That's a lot of really, really tough teams in a row. And from the beginning, right? Immediately after the first round, you're playing somebody really good. If you're Villanova gets to play after winning the first round, because I'm assuming that, Virginia Tech and Alabama. And or Alabama, right? Like Virginia Tech or Alabama. Like those teams are good. Right? And you know, you could go, okay, Keon, but I thought the whole purpose of this tournament was that the tournament would get harder as it went along. And that's true. But somebody explain to me what's going on with Kansas. Kansas beating Penn, right? They beat Pennsylvania. They will move on and play either Seton Hall or NC State. And look, man, those 2 teams are good, but they're not in the same class with Virginia Tech, Alabama, Creighton, Kansas State. Right? And Xavier, my good, like Xavier gets to play either Missouri or Florida State. Like Florida State, we know is good. Missouri is getting Michael Porter Jr. back. Michael Porter Jr. is the guy that's going to be an NBA lottery pick. Now, I don't know if he's going to be able to come back and blend with the team. I don't know how good he'll be coming off of this injury that's basically sidelined him for the entire season. But Missouri is dang good. Explain to me how it is that Kansas was the one that got off with the easier part of the bracket. Kansas didn't play as consistently and as well as Virginia has all year long, right? And like I said, Kansas has been good. Record of 27-7. But Virginia's won 30 plus games, right? They won 31 games. You win 31 games, we give you the easier part of the bracket. That really ought to be what happens. Virginia's playing the toughest part of this bracket all the way through. And it's not close. That does seem rather bizarre to me. It was just like the committee just went, oh, you're not a traditional power, Virginia, blank you. You know what I mean? Like, just blank you. You figure it out. If Virginia goes on a run and does wind up winning the national title, which I presume that they will not because they're a bad basketball team, but because I think their play style, which is tough to play against, but if you play a similar style, you can break it, and Kansas State actually does. Virginia just plays so many tough teams, and along with the play style that they have, I don't know that they can make it all the way to a national title. But if they did, I mean, can we give them 2? I think they would deserve a ton of credit for essentially overcoming being railroaded, essentially, in their part of the bracket. It's ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous. I think Xavier or Villanova might have the next toughest road to a final. Xavier would have to go through either Missouri or Florida State, and at some point they would have to cross paths with Ohio and or North Carolina. That's going to be tough, right? And if they don't cross paths with North Carolina, it'll be Michigan. That's a tough road. Villanova, though, would have to get Virginia Tech, Alabama. I'm leaning towards Alabama, which that's not an easy out, I promise. I think they ultimately do beat Alabama. At some point, they would have to catch West Virginia or Wichita State. I think that they wind up catching West Virginia, but again, tough one. And if they catch Wichita State, look, man, the Shockers are good. This team is offensively potent. I think they found surprising avenues of scoring. Right. They've got what's his name? Landry Shamet. Landry Shamet averaging 15 points and 5 assists. He's shooting 45% from the field in 3-point range. Like, the Shockers can score. They absolutely can score. Right? Like, this could be a run for Wichita State. I don't think so. I've got West Virginia, but like, I wouldn't be shocked if Wichita State made a run. That's a tough thing if you're Villanova going through all of that, right? So I don't know. You could go Xavier or Villanova having the second or third toughest road, and I wouldn't fight you either way. I think it's obvious that Kansas has the easiest path, and I think it's obvious that Virginia has the toughest, though. I think it's very obvious. So I think the committee's got to do something about that, because we see it happen a lot, right? A school becomes the number 1 or number 2 seed, and then they're not a traditional power, so they just get shafted. And we know schools get shafted. And we know schools get shafted because, and this is going to be a surprise to absolutely no one, Syracuse got in, right? Like, Syracuse got into this tournament at all. And neither Sam Jordan or I have them going particularly far. As you shouldn't. They're not good. They haven't been good this year. They've been nothing short of objectively bad. And for the committee to even have a reason or an excuse for them to get in, I understand that there's a certain level of corruption surrounding the NCAA, but like, this is just egregious and obviously and overtly something is wrong here. Syracuse has no business being in the tournament, right? Like, just had no business making it. But here's the thing that makes it weird with Syracuse is Syracuse plays a zone defense, and they play the most obnoxious brand of zone defense. And so actually, when they get to the NCAA tournament, Syracuse is almost always capable of going on a little bit of a run because they have the advantage of being unfamiliar. If you know how to play against that Syracuse zone, it's not actually difficult to beat when they're not good. And they're not good. But if you're not familiar with it, even a good team can lose to Syracuse. But that doesn't mean they deserve to be in the tournament. They're bad. They're bad. Like, Syracuse could legitimately, they play in that first 4 game tonight, right? They play Arizona State. I think Arizona State beats them, but it doesn't matter because that doesn't affect your bracket in any particular kind of way. right? Like we've already decided this. The first 4 games count, but they don't count really. But I think Arizona State beats Syracuse because I just think Arizona State's a better basketball team. Syracuse, though, would match up against TCU in the first round were they to win this first 4 matchup tonight. I just don't like it. I don't like that schools that are undeserving get in. I don't like that schools that deserve a path of relative ease, right? Like this is still a basketball tournament. It's not going to be easy. And I'm not asking for it to be easy for Virginia. I'm asking for Virginia to have the easiest path to the championship because that's what happens in tournaments. That's the whole purpose of giving them the number 1 seed in the first place and having them play a 16. That's your incentive for winning games. The more games you win, the easier your path to a final. So it encourages teams to not try and win a minimum amount of games. Look, that's how it's supposed to be. So tell me how it is that the school in this tournament with the most victories is getting absolutely shafted in this way. Somebody explain this to me, because I actually do require an explanation for this. There's no excuse for that. None. You're listening to all new Nooga Radio, noogaradio.com, 92.7 FM, Clutch with Keon Rose. We're going to get into some baseball stuff and some NFL things later because we've just had people flying all over this league, and I've been a little bit preoccupied by the month of March, admittedly, so I haven't been able to get into it as much as I'd like. So we're going to get into that a little bit later on in the show because we are looking for the destination of one Kirk Cousins. We have seen Case Keenum move. We've seen the Dolphins turn over basically all the good players in their organization. We've seen all of these things happen. And so what I want to know is, what does the NFL look like next year? Because we have a league that is experiencing a level of turnover that, and I don't know if you really like just think back to any years that you've watched football in years past, but I don't know that we've had this same level of transactions happening in the offseason in the NFL. I don't think that that's necessarily been the case. It's one of those things that's been absolutely difficult to measure. I don't believe that we've had this same level of transaction rate. Where you've just got teams openly trading, because a lot of it is that we used to believe draft picks were higher in value than they are. And now draft picks are being moved around.
Did you hear the NFL changed its name to Not For Long for players?
Oh, well, there you go. That's the update. Sam Jordan popping in with the update. The NFL actually means not for long now. If you are a player in the NFL, where are you going to be? Where are you currently playing? Oh, really? Not for long. Not for long. Because it's a lot, right? And we've talked about players being released, whether it be Tamba Hali of the Chiefs, or earlier, if you were listening to Sam Jordan, Jordy Nelson with the Packers, which that one actually does make a lot of sense, but it's still part of this barrage, right? Like this just deluge of absolute league transactions where people are being traded. NFL free agents try to have a lot of power, right? But this is the battle that they've been fighting for a while. And what we're starting to see is the ramifications of what happens if players try to have more power, whether that be Le'Veon Bell threatening to retire, or Kirk Cousins, who didn't sign any deals with the Redskins and just continue to take the franchise tag year after year after year, which is risky, right? Because if Kirk Cousins gets hit really hard and breaks something, he's losing money. It's a risk to take that franchise tag year after year after year. And threatening to retire, if the team calls your bluff, you either lose your position of advantage or you actually are now done playing football. So it's a tough thing, but teams seem to actually believe that players will do the things that they say that they're doing. And the result of that is something that we see a lot already in baseball, and the thing that we see already a lot in basketball, which is teams will try and trade you before you decide to walk away so that they can get something of value back for you. So we're actually seeing an uptick in the number of trades in the NFL, probably more than we've ever seen in years past. We'll get into all of that and much more. Clutch with Keon Rose on 92.7 FM, Nooga Radio, and NoogaRadio.com.
Chattanooga Radio, Digital FM 95.3 HD4, 92.7 FM's news now.
Gunshots in Eastlake. One man pierced by a bullet. 22-year-old Javoris Atkins arrived at the hospital around 2:30 p.m. with a gunshot wound. Police say the shooting happened on 4th Avenue in the 3500 block, right behind Eastlake Academy, where children attend every day. Where's Wishman? Monument Company customers want answers, and they want to know where their money went. Numerous customers of Wishman Monument, a headstone maker, have come forward to say that they paid for a headstone and still haven't gotten anything in return. Reports say the DA's office is investigating. A proposal to allow Georgians to purchase alcohol at restaurants and wineries on Sunday mornings is headed to the governor's desk. On Monday, House lawmakers voted 97-64 to allow on-premises consumption to begin at 11 a.m. on Sundays. Val St. John for Nooga Radio, News Talk 92.7, News Now.
Traffic, news, and information. Nooga Radio, Digital FM 95.3 HD4 and 92.7 FM.
Expect fair to partly cloudy skies to continue through your nighttime. Cold overnight, lows mid and upper 20s. Now for your Wednesday, look for some sunshine with a breeze out of the north, though. Quite cold, highs up around 40 with more mainly dry and cold weather expected through Friday. Celebrate the new year with Dixieland Fireworks, locally owned with the largest selection around. A Black Hat dealer with the lowest prices in Dixie. Dixieland Fireworks, just off I-75 on Ringgold Road, East Ridge. And I'm Swarteen 12 Chief Meteorologist Patrick Hoare.
Chattanooga Morning News with Russ and Val. Weekdays from 6 to 9 a.m. on Nooga Radio, 92.7 FM.
Hey guys, do you need a mini man break? We know how busy you are, but don't let your hairstyle suffer. Come see the stylist at Sport Clips at Hamilton Place and let them treat you to the MVP experience. A precision haircut, legendary hot steam towel, massaging shampoo, and relaxing neck and shoulder treatment, all while watching your favorite sports. No appointment needed. Sport Clips at Hamilton Place, located in front of Home Depot.
For years, you have heard these words, cash, 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 and more cash. Now, Rick wants you to buy on U.S. Gold American coins. Are you tired of making 1% on your investments with the banks, even 2 or 3% at best? Well, don't miss out. Stop by Rick Davis Gold and Diamonds at 5301 Brainerd Road in Chattanooga. Buy American. Buy now. Gold is on the rise. Certified U.S. Gold American Eagle coins at Rick Davis Gold and Diamonds, 5301 Brainerd Road in Chattanooga.
Mom's Furniture, her boxes of paperback romances, Mom's Estate. Oh, call Dan. Dan will help you get on with your life. Let Dan clear the old house. Take care of everything. He'll hand you a nice check. 314-4034. Dan, the cleanup man. 314-4034. In this moment, who has your back? Do you know the name of your insurance agent? Does your agent know your name? Or would you call a 1-800 number that connects you with whom? Another state? Another country? Get a local independent insurance agent with Auto Owners Insurance. Someone you can call when bad stuff happens. In this moment, get an agent who will protect you in that moment. Let Goss Insurance in Chattanooga help you today. GossInsurance.wordpress.com. Goss, representing Auto Owners Insurance, the no-problem people. GossInsurance.com. Goss. GossInsurance.com. Representing Auto Owners Insurance, the no-problem people. 875-2500. 875-2500. Want a business phone system that gives you Outlook integration, Salesforce integration, smartphone integration? Why desk sets and expensive lines? Turn smartphones into a cohesive business system. Call Signal 619-1200. Signal Voice and Data 619-1200.
Nooga Radio, Digital FM 95.3 HD4 and 92.7 FM knows your opinion is important. So call 800-8949. Agree or disagree? Call 423-800-8949. 800-8949. Nooga Radio, 92.7 FM and 95.3 HD4. News Talk Nooga Radio.
Sharp. Opinionated. Thought-provoking. Clutch with Keon Rose.
You're listening to all new Nooga Radio, NoogaRadio.com, 92.7 FM. Clutch with Keon Rose. I'm Keon Rose. Thank you for joining me today. So we have, essentially, in the NFL, we have a sport where the players just kind of get worked over all the time because essentially nobody in the NFL is being paid what they are actually worth because of the salary cap. In the NFL, unlike Major League Baseball and the NBA, has a hard cap. You cannot go over the cap, right? In baseball, there's a luxury tax to be paid if you go over the cap, and you just pay the luxury tax. And this is also the case in the NBA as well, though the penalty for the luxury tax in the NBA is much, much steeper, but payable, right? Because LeBron James went back to Cleveland and asked Dan Gilbert to give him the players that he needs to win a title. I don't care if we go over the luxury tax, go over it, or I'm not staying in Cleveland. And Dan Gilbert has essentially acquiesced to every single whim of LeBron James, because if you don't, you lose LeBron James. And you don't want to be the guy that had LeBron James not once, but twice and lost them both times. I'm telling you, that's not a place you want to be in that city, as much as those fans have gone through. So LeBron James has gotten Dan Gilbert to go over the luxury cap, where the Cleveland Cavaliers have been essentially the entire time that LeBron's been back from Miami. And so when you look at the luxury tax in the NBA, like, teams generally don't like to go over it, but it's doable. It's possible to go over the cap. Major League Baseball barely has a cap. The luxury tax is a tickle to the teams at the top of the league that end up spending near and over the luxury tax anyway. Teams like the Yankees, teams like the Nationals, teams like the Dodgers, teams that are just loaded in cash. And so if you do think you have a championship team, hey, just go over the cap. Nobody cares. Nobody bothers you. And the result is you see massive deals in the NBA. You see huge contracts. You see huge contracts in Major League Baseball, because you've got teams that are paying guys what they would be worth on an open market. And then you've got the NFL. Possibly the weakest, and I don't want to say most useless, but certainly of all the three sports, major sports in America, the most worthless players union of them all, in large part because the players union has no power, no teeth whatsoever, right? And we have this ongoing thing with Le'Veon Bell and the Pittsburgh Steelers. Le'Veon Bell wants to be paid roughly $20 million a year. I think that he should be paid that. That is what Le'Veon Bell is worth. But the team's not trying to pay Le'Veon Bell based on what Le'Veon Bell is worth. They're trying to pay Le'Veon Bell compared to what part of the cap is Le'Veon Bell actually worth, right? Like, what cap hit are we willing to take? What percentage of the actual salary we are allowed to spend are we willing to spend on Le'Veon Bell? Now, Le'Veon Bell, to me, I think is worth it because Le'Veon Bell is not like other running backs. He does a very good job of staying healthy. He doesn't take gigantic hits for no reason. He gets out of bounds. And also, I think that Le'Veon Bell gives you the added bonus of what a wide receiver can give you that other running backs can't give you. This is not just a guy catching balls out of the backfield. When the Steelers line up with 5 wide receivers, many times Le'Veon Bell is one of the...
I was developing a very severe situation. I called it my...
Le'Veon Bell is one of the 5 wide receivers. Very often, he's one of the 5. There is no other team in the NFL with their running backs that can say that. And I know fans think that Le'Veon Bell is delusional for thinking that he should get $20 million. And I think that if Le'Veon Bell were able to test his worth on the open market, someone would give him close to that. I don't think he'd get quite 20 mil. I think it's hard in today's day and age to justify 20 mil with a running back, just given how most teams do their running back situation, which is, why would I pay one guy $20 million when I could pay 3 guys less than that? A lot of teams do their running back by committee. But that being said, that's still crazy to think that Le'Veon Bell is going to be, the Steelers are offering him $15 million. He's certainly worth more than 15 mil. And to give you a comparison, and I was on Reddit earlier today on the NFL Reddit, and I think someone brought this up. Mike Evans is being paid $16.5 million. And look, Mike Evans is a very good receiver. This is not to be disrespectful to Mike Evans in any particular kind of way. But Mike Evans is now worth more to a team than Le'Veon Bell is worth to a team. Right? Like if you had a draft, everybody in the league was a free agent. I don't know where you're taking Mike Evans, but you're taking Le'Veon top 10. Right? Like everyone's going to make a scramble for all of these good quarterbacks and try and pick guys that are either younger than the prime of their career or in the prime of their career. I don't think everyone's going to make a mad scramble for Brady necessarily because he's old, but these other guys, yeah, you would make a scramble for them, I think. Here's the issue. Here's the issue that I just find to be a little bit preposterous. You wouldn't take Mike Evans with the top 10 or the top 20 or the top 30. Is Mike Evans a top 30 player in the NFL? No, he is not. You wouldn't take Mike Evans with the top 30. And yet the idea is that Le'Veon Bell should be happy with the notion that he is worth less money than Mike Evans, even though you know, and I know, and he knows, and the Steelers know he's worth more money than Mike Evans. The Steelers are being cheap and not wanting to pay him more money than Mike Evans. Mike Evans, okay? Again, Mike Evans is a very good receiver, but Mike Evans isn't one of the 6 or 7 game-changing guys in the league. Right? AJ Green, Odell Beckham Jr., Julio Jones. These are the game-changing dudes in the league. Mike Evans isn't one of those dudes. Therefore, he should not be paid more than Le'Veon Bell on an annual basis. And yeah, we could say, well, running backs don't last long. Okay, so just don't give him a long deal. How is this a problem? If you sign Le'Veon Bell to a 3 or 4 year deal, most running backs reach the end of their prime going into their 30s. Le'Veon Bell is only 26 years old. You've got 4 years of the guy. 4. If you sign him to a 4-year deal with, I don't know, $17 to $20 million a year guaranteed, you'd be paying what is fair, I think, for Le'Veon Bell. And I don't think he'd disagree with you. But what the Steelers want to do is give him the same 3 or 4 years and pay him less per year than Mike Evans. Right. If I'm Le'Veon Bell, I don't know if I'm sitting down and taking that one either. In fact, I know I'm not. Like, there's something truly fundamentally just unfair about that league. And part of it is that, yeah, the players' union doesn't have any teeth. And because of the way that NFL players ultimately get paid, because you think that all of these guys are millionaires. They're not all millionaires. The way that these guys get paid, when it's time for them to go on strike, I mean, the owners can wait them out. The owners don't have any problem waiting on the players. Like, the NFL has a monopoly on these guys' talents. There is nowhere else for them to go. And you know what I think would be absolutely interesting? Like, if the XFL actually did pop up as a proper competitor to the NFL, I don't think the XFL could ever be better than the NFL or be greater than the NFL. But what if one or two of these guys that wanted more money left, went to a different league, had a different league to go to? Because that's the main issue right now, is they have no leverage. And as it's always been said, I believe Jalen Rose is the guy that says it more often than anybody else that I've heard. You don't get paid what you're worth in this world. You get paid what you have the leverage to negotiate. And currently, the NFL players don't have the leverage to negotiate much. So they get franchise tagged and they have no choice. A lot of things happen to them and they have no choice. They get franchise tagged, they have no choice. They get lowballed by a team as they're being franchise tagged, they have no choice. It's rough. It's a rough spot to be in negotiation-wise, to know that your skill has a value and that value isn't higher. That value is higher than what it is that you are being paid. But because the company that you work for has a monopoly on your talent, there isn't anywhere else for you to go. Like, you can't leverage this talent anywhere else. It's like Le'Veon Bell's threatening to retire. Wouldn't it be better if he could threaten to go to a different league? Right? And I actually think that the XFL will do a very good job of poaching unhappy NFL players. I think so. I mean, right now they're in the process of trying to just take on guys that don't necessarily have a place to be, right? Like, so they've said, you know, Vince McMahon said, I'd be interested in having Colin Kaepernick. I'd be interested in having Johnny Manziel. It's like, yeah, just guys that don't have a place to be. But what if guys actually do have a place to be, and they're just unhappy and disgruntled, and the XFL gets to poach a few guys that way? Wouldn't that be interesting? I think that would be fascinating. You're listening to All New Nooga Radio, NoogaRadio.com. Clutch with Keon Rose. Thank you for joining me today, making me just a small part of your day. You know that I appreciate each and every one of you. And so, well, let's talk about the Dolphins, because the Dolphins have just given up, right? Like Jarvis Landry, they sent him on his way to the Browns. They decided that they were going to eat $22 million in dead money to move on from Ndamukong Suh. And those were the best players on their team. Those are the best players on their actual football team. And the Miami Dolphins are not citing trying to get fiscally more responsible. They're not citing money. They're not citing that they're rebuilding. Nope. What are the Miami Dolphins doing? The Miami Dolphins are trying to run in our direction. Some kind of hokey. Let's go with hokey, because that's a word I can say on the air. They are trying to feed us some kind of hokey. That this is a culture change. From what culture? The culture of losing to the culture of losing even more? Because that's what appears to be the culture. The culture of losing to the culture of losing more. Yeah, we won 6 games. Now we'd like to win 3. Because that's the direction that you're headed in. You've gotten rid of already Jay Ajayi during the middle of the season. And of course, Jay Ajayi goes to the Philadelphia Eagles, whereupon he wins a Super Bowl. You've already given up on Jarvis Landry, who is the best pass catcher on your team. You don't know whether or not you're going to draft another quarterback, because even though they've got Ryan Tannehill, and Ryan Tannehill should be healthy by next NFL season, the Dolphins may have already given up on Ryan Tannehill and may be looking to draft another quarterback, which would be absolutely silly and insane. Now they don't have Ndamukong Suh, who is the best player on their defense. What are they doing? Oh, yeah, being the Dolphins. Just trying to lose at a rate that is inexplicable. Inexplicable. Like, how do you explain that? That's not a culture change. Like, I know Ndamukong Suh has, personality issues, right? Like, Ndamukong Suh is the guy that will just absolutely go crazy on a football field and just stomp on people who are already down and a bunch of dirty stuff, right? Like, we've seen the dirtiness that Ndamukong Suh is capable of. So if you're saying that you don't want that in your locker room, fair enough. But then how does that explain Jay Ajayi? How does that explain Jarvis Landry? Except that you just don't like winning. And it's not like you were winning much to begin with. Just absolutely absurd, head-scratching stuff from the Miami Dolphins. And then the Cleveland Browns, I want to say that the Cleveland Browns are attempting to move in the right direction. They acquired Tyrod Taylor as their quarterback, right? This was earlier this week. I didn't get the chance to talk about it because, of course, I was drowning in college basketball, and that's just generally how this tends to go. But I'm just saying, Tyrod Taylor is their quarterback. The Browns were the ones that got Jarvis Landry. So they've got a guy who can throw. They've got a guy who can catch. And I'm not saying Tyrod Taylor is the guy, but I am saying Tyrod Taylor is better than what they had in DeShone Kizer, and they went ahead and gave Tyrod Taylor at least one weapon. Now, they're missing a left tackle because Joe Thomas decided he was going to go retire. I can't particularly blame him. What are you coming out of retirement for? You have already lived the impossible dream. Your team went an entire NFL season without winning any games at all. 0-16. You get to join the ranks of the Detroit Lions and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers of the late 80s. These are the teams that you get to join now. The only other 0-16 team in NFL history, and the 0-14 Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Yeah, Joe Thomas didn't feel like that was worth playing for, I imagine, and just decided to back out of this one. The Browns have won exactly one game in the last 2 years. If the Browns win any games at all, they are moving in the right direction. I think Tyrod Taylor can help them win 3 or 4, right? Tyrod Taylor and Jarvis Landry, that combination of guys can help them win 3 or 4. The DeShone Kizer experiment should never have began in the first place. We all knew DeShone Kizer was rough. DeShone Kizer, I'm not saying DeShone Kizer is the worst quarterback I've ever seen in my life, but he's damn close. He's really close to being the worst quarterback I've ever seen in my life, which is very, very problematic. But more importantly, what are the Buffalo Bills doing? What are they doing? The Bills were a playoff team last year. Now, if you're telling me that you're the Bills, because the Bills did move up in order with that trade with the Browns, they moved up in the draft. They swapped picks with the Browns. The Browns will move down to 22, and the Bills move up to 13, I believe. So it's possible, 13 or 12, I forget exactly which. So it's possible that a quarterback could end up falling to you if you're Buffalo, right? You're not going to get Rosen, you're not going to get Darnold, but you might be able to get the Josh Allen kid, and if not him, you might be able to get Lamar Jackson, right? Like you could get a quarterback if you're the Bills. My distinct question is, what are you doing if you're the Bills? I'm not here to preach and sing the praises of Tyrod Taylor. But at current, that would make your starting quarterback Nathan Peterman. And Nathan Peterman, for the brief experiment that we had in the Nathan Peterman show, was a one-man dumpster fire. He was all alone stinking. Like, I make the same exception here that I'm making with DeShone Kizer. I'm not sure that Nathan Peterman playing quarterback in the NFL is the worst quarterback I've ever seen in my life. But man, if he wasn't absolutely close. What on earth are you doing if you're the Bills? I mean, talk about taking one step forward and 3 steps back. Wow. That one is absolutely confusing. Right? And then, of course, man, I didn't even touch on the Richard Sherman thing. Richard Sherman is a San Francisco 49er. And they asked Richard Sherman if the decision to go to San Francisco was because he gets to play the Seahawks 2 times a year, to which Richard Sherman replied, "I'm just vengeful that way." Good. I don't know exactly what the Seahawks are doing. I think the Seahawks are deciding to themselves, you know what? Our defense is aging. We can't afford to pay them all. Why don't we just jettison this and just try and rebuild again? And the Seahawks are going to have to become a different kind of team. One that relies more on their offense. One that relies more on their quarterback play. Though it's going to be tough. I know they still have Doug Baldwin, but I forget the name of their other receiver that walked away, and I think he's a Redskin now. But they lost another speedy receiver on the outside. For a team that's trying to rely more on their offense and just say, hey, you know what? These defensive guys are asking for a lot of money, and we can't afford to pay them all. So we're going to just trade off Earl Bennett, and we're going to release Richard Sherman. I think this is the direction that they're going. Now, I also think that the Seahawks may have done the right thing with releasing Richard Sherman, right? Because as much as we remember Richard Sherman being a dominant defensive force, and certainly in his prime he was, Richard Sherman is coming off of a double Achilles tear, right? That's both legs. I don't even know how good Richard Sherman can actually be. Richard Sherman might not have legs. Like, I'm a little concerned with how good Richard Sherman can actually be. Richard Sherman may not actually have legs. You're listening to all new Nooga Radio 92.7 FM, Clutch with Keon Rose. Thank you for joining me today. I appreciate you all. Remember, folks, it's not how you start, it's how you finish. Stay clutch, and I'll see you in 24 hours. Two Millennials Talk. Alex Jones is next.
Chattanooga Morning News with Russ and Val. Weekdays from 6 to 9 a.m. on Nooga Radio 92.7 FM.
3, 2, 1.
Chattanooga Radio. Digital FM 95.3 HD4. 92.7 FM's news now.
Gunshots in East Lake. One man pierced by a bullet. 22-year-old Javoris Akins arrived at the hospital around 2:30 p.m. with a gunshot wound. Police say the shooting happened on 4th Avenue in the 3500 block, right behind East Lake Academy, where children attend every day. Police are still trying to track down the would-be killer. Where's Wishman? Monument Company customers want answers. Public posts on Facebook show a pattern. People want to know where their money went. Numerous customers of Wishman Monument, a headstone maker, have come forward to say that they paid for a headstone and still haven't gotten anything in return. Public IRS documents show the company owes over $10,000 in debts, and it shuttered its doors this week. The owner is nowhere to be found. Students in multiple schools walked out of class today, both in protestation of the violence in America and in support of the Parkland shooting victims. Russell Stroud, Nooga Radio News Talk 92.7 News, now.
95.3 HD4, 92.7 FM.
Expect fair to partly cloudy skies to continue through your nighttime. Cold overnight, lows mid and upper 20s. Now for your Wednesday, look for some sunshine with a breeze out of the north, though. Light cold, highs up around 40 with more mainly dry and cold weather expected through Friday. Celebrate the new year with Dixieland Fireworks. Locally owned with the largest selection around. A Black Hat dealer with the lowest prices in Dixie. Dixieland Fireworks, just off I-75 on Ringgold Road, East Ridge. And I'm Swarteen 12 Chief Meteorologist Patrick Hoare.
The Tennessee Valley's news talk leader. Nooga Radio. Digital FM 95.3 HD4 and 92.7 FM. Broadcasting live to over 1 million souls in Chattanooga, the Tennessee Valley, and beyond on frequency modulation 92.7. Sean Hannity. 25,000 watts on digital FM 95.3 HD4. CBS Radio News. NASCAR, Bloomberg Markets, David Tulis, streaming strong at NoogaRadio.com. Live on YouTube and Facebook. Nooga Radio, News Talk 92.7. Chattanooga Radio.
For car care you can trust, visit State Line Car Care in East Ridge. With 39 years in the automotive industry, owner Tracy Matthews and his professional staff treat everyone like family and every vehicle like their own. From brakes and tires to engines and transmissions, State Line services all makes and models. A standard oil change is just $24.95, and brake, AC, or engine light diagnostics are free. Open weekdays 8 to 5, Saturdays 9 to 1. State Line Car Care, 1416 St. Thomas Street in East Ridge.
Okay, you've got the girl. Now it's time to take it to the next level. The ring. The only place you need to know and go is to Goss Company Jewelers. Not only do they sell retail jewelry, but offer custom jewelry too. You want something unique and personalized? Charlie Goss can do it. Charlie will guide you through the process of finding the perfect ring. Your best girl deserves the ring from the best in the business. Trust Charlie Goss at Goss Company Jewelers, behind Chili's on Gun Barrel.
For years, you have heard these words: cash, 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 and more cash. Now, Rick wants you to buy on U.S. Gold American coins. Are you tired of making 1% on your investments with the banks, even 2 or 3% at best? Well, don't miss out. Stop by Rick Davis Gold and Diamonds at 5301 Brainerd Road in Chattanooga. Buy American. Buy now. Gold is on the rise. Certified U.S. Gold American Eagle coins at Rick Davis Gold and Diamonds, 5301 Brainerd Road in Chattanooga.
Aid a Veteran presents Bet Stock 2, May the 12th, 2018, at the Venue Barn at Kimsey Acres in Cleveland, Tennessee. Live music from 5 bands: Madison Rising, Greg Irwin Band, Steel Horse, Wasted Ribs, and Heist Cold. $10 admission, $15 day of show. Vendors of all kinds. Food and drinks On 20-plus acres, overnight camping is available. Purchase your tickets before April the 1st and enter the contest to win a free Chattanooga riverboat cruise for 2. Please come out and support our local veterans. Go to www.aidaveteran.com. Doors will open at 12 noon. We will also have a petting zoo for the children until 4 o'clock. Then the event will pop off. That's www.aidaveteran.com.
Truex Jr. is off the pace and he is headed to the pit lane. Elliott powers around the outside. Michael McDowell pops the right front tire. Here's Martin Truex to the bottom. Blaney blocks him off too. Meanwhile, Chase Elliott went 4 wide on the back straightaway. They're side by side for the lead.
Hear it live on Chattanooga's official NASCAR radio station.
Nooga Radio, 92.7 FM, 95.3 HD4.
The voice of NASCAR.
Charge! Get back there, you dang Yankee! Great horny coats! I'm up north!
WBLZ HD4 Ottawa, W224AZ Chattanooga.
92.7, Digital FM 95.3 HD4.
Chattanooga.
This is CBS News on the Hour, presented by TheraWorks Relief.
I'm Pam Coulter.
We are students here at Roar.
Tens of thousands of students staged a nationwide walkout today to demand action on gun violence.
Stop the violence and stop killing people. And put the guns down because people getting hurt.
CBS's Adriana Diaz in Parkland, Florida.
They gravitated to the memorials. There are 17 memorials set up with crosses and stars of David representing each of the 70 people who died. They gravitated to those memorials and they sat in circles around them. They hugged each other. They cried. There was a lot of emotion. It was very somber.
The House has passed a bill designed to prevent school shootings. CBS's Steve Dorsey.
The Stop School Violence Act passed nearly unanimously. It funds efforts to train students, teachers, and officers to identify early warning signs of violent behavior and intervene early. Supported by the White House, the bill now goes to the Senate for a vote.
In Birmingham, Alabama, police responded to a call about an active shooter at a local hospital. Officials say 2 people were shot and the gunman is down. Attorney General Jeff Sessions is considering a recommendation by FBI officials to fire former Deputy Director Andrew McCabe. CBS's Paula Reed.
He's just days away from retirement, so if he was to be fired, he could potentially lose his pension and all of his other retirement benefits.
McCabe has been harshly criticized by President Trump. Oklahoma officials are preparing a new method for executions.
Nitrogen hypoxia. Breathe it, you die.
It's painless and you go to sleep in a matter of seconds.
Oklahoma Attorney General Mike Hunter.
Clearly satisfies the 8th Amendment prescription against cruel and unusual punishment.
It is unusual.
No one in the United States has ever carried out an execution by nitrogen hypoxia.
Robert Dunham at the nonprofit Death Penalty Information Center.
It will be human experimentation.
Oklahoma executioners used to be pretty busy, but botched legal injections put death on hold there since 2015. Jim Taylor, CBS News.
A Navy fighter jet crashed off the coast of Key West today. Commander Dave Hecht of Naval Air Force Atlantic says there was a mishap on approach to landing.
During that mishap, the pilot and the weapons systems officer both ejected from the aircraft about a mile away from the runway.
The 2 crew members were picked up. Weakened by online competition, including from Amazon, Toys R Us is on the ropes. Several reports say the bankrupt retailer is poised to close all of its U.S. stores. CBS's Jill Schlesinger.
It's sad because it is an iconic brand. I keep thinking that Jeffrey the giraffe just went from the endangered list to the extinct list.
This is CBS News.
To prevent and relieve muscle cramps in your legs and feet, use TheraWorks Relief. Get TheraWorks Relief